I don't want to say it's the best feeling in the world because of the dark place that it took me in my life. It makes everything go away, any pain, but it also takes away your happiness.
33-year-old Pulaski County resident Stephanie Brown spent 7 years in heroin's haze.
I've never been married, but I was married to heroin. It was the love of my life. It came first and foremost before my kids. I lost jobs. I lost everything.
Brown says to the uninitiated, the feeling heroin gives is hard to explain. But if actions speak louder than words.
If you can lose everything that possibly means anything to you in your life for this one drug, that tells you how addictive it is right there.
Getting heroin became the focus of Brown's life.
A tenth is $50. So I had a almost gram to 2 gram a habit a day, which is close to $400 a day. We would go to Lowe's and steal copper. We would go to Walmart and steal flat screen TVs to trade to drug dealers. My family, anything that they had that was worth anything was gone. I would take from my children's piggy banks.
Brown ended up in Pulaski County Drug Court.
I had 17 felonies of stealing, possession, you name it, I had it. I mean, and this was built up over a sum of 5 years. And it was all because the ways and means to use on a daily basis.
Stephanie used right before drug court and was selected that day to give a random urine sample. In the days that followed, she scrambled, writing letters, devising plans, anything, she says, to stay out of prison. It was here, standing in front of a judge in Pulaski County Drug Court, that Stephanie Brown temporarily lost her freedom. And she says that's what saved her life.
And thank God that he decided to put me in prison and not just on house arrest, because I would have never stopped.
In March of 2012, Brown ended up in a Missouri Department of Corrections women's facility in Vandalia, sentenced to 120 days shock time. Brown's 6-year-old son came to visit after 2.5 months of Stephanie detoxing.
I think it was the first family visit that I got in my 120. And my son, he said, "You look better than I've ever seen you." And that just, I'll never forget that day, because I didn't know how deep that it had hurt him.
Brown still carries her prison ID, so she won't forget what she did to her life with heroin, what she looked like, and what she lost.
Everything. I mean, there's not one thing that was left.
Pulaski County Sheriff Ron Long says Brown's story isn't unique in his county.
Over the last 5 years, we've had over 500 overdoses, and that includes some other drugs too, but primarily heroin. And also, we've had over 50 deaths, with 13 of them being last year.
The sheriff says heroin dealers are using this county with a population of 54,000 people as a hub of sorts.
We seem to be the center of it right now, a center distribution area for this part of the state. First of all, we have a military base. We also are right along Interstate 44. So I think it's the #3 highway in the United States where people transport drugs through. Groups out of Detroit, Chicago, St. Louis, Dallas have picked Pulaski County because of some of these factors to start up a distribution point too. So that's why we have state agencies working with us. And also the federal government, the FBI, and a lot of the DEA agents in this area are doing work down here too.
Long is trying to battle the dealers, one life at a time, focusing on the recovery of the addict.
So we've decided that just law enforcement, just the enforcement part, that's not effective when it comes down to addiction. We have to have a community effort. So we decided to begin this Heroin Action Committee. We have doctors, we have judges, prosecutors, law enforcement from every agency in this part of the state almost.
Nearly 2 years sober, Stephanie Brown is now an important part of this action committee.
It's to keep giving back from a community that I took away from for so long.
Brown knows the battle these addicts are facing.
Most of them don't make it out. And if they make it out, they're spending the rest of their life in prison, or they're in 6 feet under the ground.
Brown says while 50 deaths and 500 overdoses in 5 years are sobering numbers, no one deserves to die a statistic.
No, we're saving lives, we're saving children, we're saving parents. Yeah, we're not just a number. We are somebody, because I wasn't always just an addict.
Good afternoon.
Drug court may be like no courtroom you've seen or heard before.
Well, you're doing great.
The participants know each other from coming week after week. There's a lot of joking, a lot of laughter.
Okay, you can leave.
But don't be fooled, there are also nerves. These participants may be days or weeks out of drug use, heroin, meth, illegal prescription opiates. Mandatory drug testing reveals that some haven't put their addiction in the past.
4 drug charges for heroin and methamphetamines.
28-year-old Nakia Lewis landed in drug court after years of abuse.
I was addicted to meth for 11 years and I did heroin for like 6.
Lewis said she had nothing left to lose after overdosing on heroin in January 2013.
I lost my family, my kid. Still to this day, I'm trying to fix that. I overdosed. That was like in January, my mom, that was the end of it. Like, she just couldn't handle it. She couldn't find me for 3 days. My friends left me in a parking lot to die, and her regulars from her restaurant called an ambulance and got me to ICU.
Later, even this court wasn't sure about her.
When I first came in, they all voted no for me to come into this program.
Even then, Nakia still wasn't convinced about drug court.
I feel like they were all against me, that it was a money scam.
It's a high-risk, high-need participant. The purpose of drug court is to rehabilitate the offender.
The court is also designed to help protect the community and ease prison overcrowding.
We've noticed that drugs are fueling a lot of our crime around this county.
Associate Judge Colin Long says the participants undergo a rigorous program.
They're required to come to court every week. They're required to meet with their probation and parole officer every week. They're subject to frequent and sustained drug testing.
Each participant is also assigned a tracker specific to their gender.
All of our participants have a curfew. 9 o'clock is our curfew. And so our trackers go out to make sure that everybody that's participating in our court complies with our curfews. They also do job checks to make sure that they're at their employment when they're supposed to be there.
Before each person is seen in drug court, a panel meets that includes the prosecutors, defense attorneys, probation officers, and anyone else involved in their case. They weigh in on how they're progressing.
If anything, she's actually more friendly.
This panel goes over specific details of each participant, their attitude. Are they paying restitution to victims? Are they active in their recovery? Long says he would say this to anyone who suggests lock them up and throw away the key.
The easy thing to do is to probably put somebody away and to sentence them to prison. The hard thing to do is to spend 3 years with them or 2 years with them, monitor them weekly in their progress, and to make sure that they're getting better.
Lewis says the support of the drug court team and the other participants are helping her pull her life from the ashes, helping her rebuild her relationship with her mother and 12-year-old daughter.
You can really drag a person down just by watching you destroy your life.
Pulaski County Chief Paramedic Gary Carmack has made a living saving lives.
I went to paramedic school at the University of Missouri, Columbia.
As a father, he's helped bring life into the world.
James Aaron Carmack was born in July of 1988. Very wonderful, bright, beautiful young man. And
James is the youngest of Carmack's children.
he actually had a nickname as Gentle Giant.
Carmack says James loved history and anthropology, but in his teens, he started experimenting.
In middle school, he possibly started using some pots. For some reason, he decided to try some OxyContin, which is an opiate narcotic. They got very expensive and hard to get.
Then James upped the ante.
Some things kept coming up missing, and I couldn't quite figure it out. And then finally found some paraphernalia one day. And heroin, for all the parents and family out there, is very cheap and very easy to get. And I asked him why. And he, like so many of our youth, thought he could just do it once, see what it's all about, and not go back.
The man who spent decades saving people from the brink felt helpless as James risked his life over and over again. In 2013, heroin ultimately took James.
He just had his 25th birthday in July and died in September.
Gary says heroin's sedative effect is what takes so many lives.
What heroin does in opiates, they put your brain to sleep, and so you just forget to breathe. And your blood pressure drops and your heart rate drops, and if that goes on long enough, you die.
Hardest of all for Gary, in his kit for the decades he's been a paramedic, a little pink box.
We carry a drug, naloxone, which is commonly called Narcan, and I've used this medication. We have it in our drug box. I've used it since the 70s as a paramedic. Never dreamed it would be thinking about it with my child. It fills the receptor site where the opiate is at.
Bringing the heroin user back to life.
Is it